Alright, we're in and we're ready to do our recovery talk. I'm going to just go through the notes one more time to see if we can actually remember like all of it without the notes, because it's our experience and we've done a lot of work to internalize it, so I think we can. These are our notes. Yeah. So I think mostly it's like what our life was like before reset, which affected us in different ways. I think for Connor the worst thing was that he was trapped inside a lot. Yeah, like we couldn't really, it never felt safe to just like play. So because of that, all of our kids were kind of like shut away inside. We didn't really do anything for fun. It's really reflected in like the presents that we've brought our partner over the years, because for so many years it's just been like functional, like clothing, tools, kitchenware, things that we needed. And then in the last year it's been like card games, board games, juggling balls, pool table, Nerf guns we shoot each other with, or play Russian roulette with. So it's really, really like, you can really see that just before we didn't really have access to the part of the brain that you need to be able to just engage with play, you know, and just be able to feel like we're safe to spend the time doing non-functional, actually play is really functional, but like the kind of internalized shame-based survival mode view we had of it was that it was not functional and we just didn't feel like we had the time to do it and we didn't have the inspiration to do it. It was just really difficult to connect with. And now we're getting a lot better at being able to like let our kids take the front in appropriate situations and like still being able to protect them from what situations are okay for them to front in, but then lots of like cooking new recipes and like playing video games with Ryan, playing pool like almost every day, playing with our dog more, and like just generally in our nature, I think we're more able to access that, so we're kind of more playful, which is really nice. Before reset, our lives were just fucking chaos. Like we were working really hard to try to make it less chaotic, but for me, I think the thing that was the hardest was like the mix of things. Basically the CPTSD symptoms, dissociative symptoms. So I could spend like 5 hours or more or less, but like 5 hours was not uncommon for me to just be sat stuck dissociating in the freeze response. So like not moving, sat at the chair, unable to engage with anything, unable to do anything. I could have my drink of water like right next to me and I wouldn't be able to reach for it. And I'd like zone back in, like 5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours would have passed. And that was just really normal and absolutely horrifying, because when you're in freeze, you like your body's not moving, but your mind is, and your muscles were really tense, and it's just like you're so disconnected, but so many things are happening at once. And then there was just a constant sort of barrage of expectations and assumptions that I didn't realize were expectations or assumptions. It just felt like literally life or death. I have to do these things. I have to be this person. I have to be able to like read what people need of me and be all these things for what they need for different situations, for different people. But it was just constant. It was in everything. And then I also had this like massive, constant avalanche of guilt and shame. So everything I did felt like it wasn't enough, or felt like I should be doing something else, which is a lot of the reason that I ended up stuck in freeze so often. So I'd be sat there like feeling really bad about the fact that I wasn't cleaning or wasn't playing with our dog, and I'd be thinking of like, there were a lot of cognitive distortions running all the time, so I'd be catastrophizing and thinking like, I'm wasting all of my dog's lives and I'm going to regret it, and like our partner's going to hate us and leave us because I don't do anything around the house. Not that that was true, but the kind of black and white thinking would make it feel really true, and I didn't realise that it was like, I just have loads of expectations that have been internalised through trauma, and loads of assumptions about what other people need and mean and, you know, what I have to do. It just felt like objective reality, like this is how it is. Because the thing is, when, like, if somebody had said to us before reset, learning to like work out what your belief systems are and how to change them, I would have just thought that was so irrelevant. Like, this is just the way the world is. This is just things that are real that I have to do, that like there really is no escape from. And that's a massive, massive thing that's changed, which is, I was noticing just preparing for our talk, our recovery talk, And like, I'm really aware of where the perfectionism wants to go off. Like, what if we miss something out? What if, like, and anytime I'm thinking in what ifs, I'm like, that's a cognitive distortion. I don't have to follow that. So it's so much more relaxing now. And I'm so much, because my mind is more able to relax, I'm more able to be connected to the parts of me who, like, more fluidly and more, with more freedom, can access things like curiosity and play and inspiration. So it's just easier to think of what I need to say, even sitting here now. I'm not like, because I'm not having all the expectations and assumptions of what I need to remember to say. So I was really noticing that, and noticing that they still come up, but I recognize them for what they are, and I know how to manage them because of the skill sets we've learned. I know which skill set to use where. So instead of going into these and like getting stuck in freeze and getting migraines and being unable to do it at all, I'm able to like recognize what's happening and manage the symptoms so that I can be in a state where I'm able to connect to the parts of me that I need to connect to be able to do it and feel relatively comfortable. Even if I feel like anxiety, to be honest, the anxiety isn't even that bad, but I feel it in my body, but it's not shutting me down or giving me like a meaning about myself, or like I have to do this perfectly or else, or like people will need me to do it like this, or like any of that. It goes to go off, but I recognize it and I don't follow it. So that's massive. I'm in touch with how I'm feeling. Like, I can feel my body. I'm in my body. I'm like in the room. Instead of, I guess, going through flashbacks or going into the future, and like basically just leaving my body to do all of those things. So I'm able to like, yeah, I feel a bit of the anxiety in my stomach, in my chest. And I feel kind of quite a lot of energy, but I'm not unable to manage it. And it's not telling me a story about what I have to do, what I have to be, who I am. Or like it's trying to, but it's not convincing me.
I think the way we relate to Ryan is so different now. So different. Like, before, it took me years to work out that, you know, we can have a difference in memory. Like, we can remember an event differently, and it doesn't mean they're gaslighting me. It took a long time for that to feel true or possible. So there was a lot of times where anything fucking relational or vulnerability based, I just couldn't access. And everything was threat detection based. So even I wouldn't recognise that it was my thoughts or my projections of past trauma doing this. Just felt like I was genuinely unsafe while in safe relationships. And like it was because all these people really did feel either threatened by me or threatening towards me, or like unsafe in a lot of ways, angry, judgmental. And because it felt like it was happening now, I'd live in flashbacks, basically, just re-experiencing the emotional element of it having happened so much in childhood, but it feels like it's happening now. So it was like everyone that I tried to talk to, I just experienced that. I couldn't really separate the past from the present, and I didn't know how to connect to younger parts of myself to give them the comfort and the reassurance that they needed. So there was so much division between different parts of me. I was literally like 15 different people have become one person in my subsystem, in me, since the start of, since before reset to after going through it for like the 12 weeks, probably a bit longer for us. I actually can connect with what I'm feeling, and I've built such a tanky distress tolerance that even the really, really intense emotions I can feel, and I don't get overwhelmed by feeling them. And the same as what you said, you know, it doesn't translate to a story in my head that I believe. I still hear it happen, but I recognise the thoughts, and I'm able to give counter evidence and affirmations to be like, this isn't happening. This doesn't have this meaning about me. I don't need to behave in a certain way to be safe. Really being able to detach the past from the present, and being able to see where it's being projected and know what to do about it when it is, so that I can be in the present, not re-experiencing the past, but actually processing the past in a safe environment and building new disconfirming evidence for situations and for dealing with people, to rewire our brain and nervous system to learn how it can be. And it's getting more comfortable every time. Still uncomfortable right now, but like, it doesn't feel like I'm going to die all the time every time I talk to someone or feel something at the same time as talking to them. So that is incredible. I had so many defences in me that would block me from vulnerability and from connection that I didn't realise were defensive. And they'd go off and I'd either withdraw, close down. I could be quite cold or quite aggressive to people because it felt like it was right to do that. Like it just felt unsafe and dumb to do anything else. I couldn't really hear what people meant when they said things. I couldn't really believe connection or safety was real. And I can now. It definitely comes with relief and grief. But I think that's from the dual processing of the past and seeing how bad it was as the present is so much better, and being able to connect to people actually feels amazingly like, I think I can feel things like affection, love, joy, hope. I do feel grief at the same time, and for now that's just how it is. I feel relief as well and everything else. I think a big thing is that the world just looks much more accessible now. There were so many reasons that I felt like we couldn't engage, couldn't go to places, couldn't deal with people. And it was kind of true at the time because of everything that my brain and nervous system was wired to do. It would make it inaccessible. But I didn't realise that was something we had the power to change until after reset. And learning all the skills we learned from there and learning to apply them to change how our brain works and how we work when we respond to the symptoms as they come up. Like, you know, before reset, I didn't realise that I didn't see where I had agency, or all the places where I blamed other people just felt like it was true, because it was so unfair and so true in childhood, and that's what the projection and the flashbacks do, you know. But then, so like it could take a week to work out that one thing was a past trauma projected and that I'm safe now and that Ryan hasn't suddenly changed into a monster who hates us or who's controlling us. And to see that I have agency, to actually feel it, could take like a week of really intense discussions, getting triggered, coming back down, going in and out of shock, going in and out of fight flight, probably living mostly in fight flight. And, you know, it could take longer than a week, really. Sometimes it could take like a month, it could take a couple. And it was basically happening so many times a day that I was just living in those states. And then it happened the other day where we went to quit smoking. And all morning I was thinking, God, I hope he breaks. I hope he breaks first so that I can smoke. Because I don't want to trigger him by bringing them back in if I don't have to. But if he's going to anyway, I get to smoke. And I was thinking that all morning. And then he was like, oh, you know what? I might break. And immediately my brain was like, oh, fuck you. Now it's your fault. I'm going to smoke. But because I'm able to observe my thoughts and not identify with them, not feel like they're reality, I could be like, oh, you know, fucking hell, connect those two things. I could see where it was blame, where it was personalization, where I have agency. And I could recognize, like, you know, obviously if I want to smoke, that's my decision. It's not based on his behavior. And I was probably going to, whether or not he did. And then to also be like, it's not his fault, it's, you know, we each have our own decisions and our own freedom to make them. And being able to see that so I don't get sent into flashbacks for a week, that took about 30 seconds. That happened in the moment. Instead of it being like a month or weeks to work through it. It's just massive how much we've rewired our brain and our nervous system and how much we are still doing so that the way we engage with life is so different. Everything feels like so hopeful and filled with possibilities, and we can be comfortable and feel like we're having fun in situations even when they're difficult and even when we feel scared. Everything has opened up around me instead of being like dark and closed down and feeling impossible, and we're not getting hit with so many of the symptoms so often because they would absolutely destroy our health as well. Physically we'd get loads of things that were like the flu but from trauma, days of migraines. It really was incredibly exhausting and detrimental to even engage in a place with people for a few minutes at a time. And now, you know, I can do it. I can be a bit tired and we can still get some headaches coming back, but it's amazing to see the things we have the power to change, and just being able to work on how we respond, so that how we actually feel and the emotions we have access to feeling at all are so vastly improved from what they were.
I think I feel good about this.
I think you feel good about this.
I feel good about this.
Yeah.